Well, ladies and gentlemen, another exciting episode of the Scouser on the Scot. Now, you'll notice that one of us is missing, and it's not the Scot. Our Scouse friend, well, I won't tell you where he is, but he's up to no good, no doubt. So anyway, without further ado, I'll introduce tonight's guests, and they are the one and only Moose and Fred from the perfectly fantastic band Sons of Liberty UK. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, damn good, thank you. Damn good.
That's great. Thanks for coming on the show. And just to let you know, we actually had this schedule for last week. Then Fred and I took out at the same time, so it didn't happen. So here we are anyway. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys, specifically because everybody knows your band and everybody knows how you're probably the hardest working band in the UK and really successful at it. So from that perspective, can you just give us a bit of background into, how the Sons of Liberty came about?
Oh, blimey. Well, that goes back years. So, yeah, we all been around the scene in Bristol, playing in various bands. We all knew each other before the band came together. And, yeah, just the whole Southern rock thing just seemed to click in all at the right time. And we found ourselves in rehearsal rooms playing cool Southern rock stuff. And from there, we've sort of morphed into the original band. So, it's almost like the sort of formation of the band originally is sort of long forgotten now, if you like. We sort of count 2018, I guess, as really the starting point for when the Shinola EP was recorded and released. And yeah, we've seem to have gone from strength to strength since then.
Yeah, so you started off as a covers band.
Yeah. Doing
Southern rock covers. Yeah. Now that I can't imagine there's too many bands. Well, I can't imagine nowadays that so many bands do that. Start off as covers and then go on to stick together and do. So what was the metamorphosis? What brought that about?
Yeah, it was kind of we did start out as a covers band, but I think you got to remember at the time we started that there wasn't a lot of original music. There wasn't that much of an audience.
Yeah.
The sort of new wave of classic rock, emerging rock band scene, and you guys, and everything's picked up
since then,
massively. But we were in originals bands when we were much younger.
Yeah.
And we did that, and it didn't work out, and like it doesn't for most people. But the scene came to us really. So we'd started doing the Southern rock thing, and we really got on well. We're kind of quite a seasoned bunch of musicians, and we've got a lot of experience between us. And then we just had a bit of time, and because we'd always done original stuff in the past. So I think the first chance we got to write together, and when we got some sort of positive feedback from the crowds that we were going out, that we could do this again, we were straight back at it. We were back in our element. So I think we're just loving every second of it, because I think we're not that young. Our ship had kind of sailed, and it hasn't. We're actually enjoying doing what we wanted to do. Back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, when we started doing this kind of stuff.
I think it's quite an interesting thing as well, because I hadn't really thought about it, because I only started back in the music scene after. I stopped in 1990 when I moved to England from Scotland. And then only came back in the summer of 2018. So I kind of didn't realise that the scene was like that there just wasn't a scene, and that basically you were having to play covers just purely to have something to play. And I never even crossed my mind that. That just shows you how.
All the venues, places like the Fleece and the big venues that have originals bands now, we're all having covers bands.
Yeah.
There was a covers scene, and there was there wasn't a lot of guitar music. There was some kind of indie guitar driven music, but the rock scene really tailed off. There just wasn't an audience. Everyone was into their pop and electronic music, and that's come back round. But you couldn't get a gig doing original music for 15 years. Didn't matter how good you were.
So I take it financially you took a hit though once you started doing original music over covers. You must have earned more money.
No, not really.
You've been lucky then.
I think so. We weren't doing the wedding thing.
No.
If you're doing that scene, you can make a lot of money. We were doing, the pop pub covers circuit and some decent ones. But you could make a little bit of money from that. But no, it's much healthier financially now. I think we lost Moose.
I don't know where he's got to. He froze and then he went. He must
Yeah,
have
we scared him off. We talked about money. We scared him off.
That's how it was. See if we can let him back in now. Oh, there he is. There he was.
I see what you mean.
Can hear you now, Moose, but I can't see you.
We're obviously not making enough money to buy a decent computer. And
You know what it was? He disappeared in case the tax man was watching.
It clagged up a little bit earlier in the chat, and then it disconnected altogether. So sorry guys, don't know what's going on with that. So
don't worry, Moose. We made up a good story about you when you weren't on.
Another one.
Another one, mate. We don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
No.
So that's cool, because I mean, I remember as I came in, I started doing that for JMP as a sort of hobby about July 2018. So that was about the time when Shinola, roughly, I think, right about that time.
We just started. We sort of gigged Shinola, and we were gigging the songs from Aged Oak by about that kind of time. So so yeah, I think Love Rocks. We did a last minute sort of step in at the Love Rocks festival, and that gave us a chance to play probably our first fully original set. I mean, it was only like a 40-minute set or something, but from that point onwards, we've not looked back really. It's kind of the songs from the 2 EPs are still really popular in the live sets, and of course since then there's been Animism, and now most recently Aged in Oak, which has gone down phenomenally well.
I think the thing with you guys is that, you see, sometimes I see it where some bands, a lot of bands are like, oh yeah, they're a live experience. You can only really get them live. But I think with you guys, actually, it's both. You're a bit like Blitz. Blitz are the same. Recorded wise, you sound great. Then live, you sound great. There's some, you seem to be able to cut. I mean, their new album, the sound quality. I mean, I was lucky. You sent me, you sent me the songs a long time before it came out, and I remember coming back to you and saying, guys, you've got about 6 singles on that alone.
Yeah.
And it was like, but one thing I noticed was, I think your sound's got harder on this album. It's more. There's a lot more hard rock than there is southern rock, and the tracks that kind of stuck in my mind. Like Gasoline. It's like, to me, it's like, that's like a straight out rocker. That's like AC/DC.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it is a different sound.
And I think that's
I think it's just kind of we've evolved into writing, or
stuff we like.
I guess when you first start out, we took more from a southern covers band, and we're looking for those kind of southerny style motifs. But then as you start to get your own audience, you just write what's in you. So and we're all rockers at the end of the day. So there's still some slide on there. There's still things like Texas Hill Country and Doc's Remedy, and quite southerny stuff. But we're a rock band. I think it's kind of mostly the lyrical content that give it that real southern flavour. The stories of ordinary folk, and Rob's lyrics, and so we can almost do anything behind that, and it sounds like us.
I think it's, anybody I've ever spoken to that's seen you live always rave about you live. And you know what? What's really good is, and that's a serious question as well. Do you think that, I always think that, the time to really push to be in a band and be able to do what you really want is usually when you're young, before you have families and before you end up having to follow the wage slave and et cetera, et cetera. But in reality, what's happened with you guys is, because you're all that bit older, most of you are at a stage now where you've done all that bit, so you're now actually able to go and do what normally would be done in your 20s. Would you say that's right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that period in the middle is the bit that you can't do it.
Yeah.
So you can do it when you're really young, and we can do it now because we're not dependent on the music to make a living.
Yeah.
We've got homes, we've done other stuff. So yeah, it's as long as you're sort of physically still able to do it. Sometimes a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, especially the way you guys work. I mean, you're probably the first, if not one of the first bands that came out of lockdown. I think you were probably the first, and you just never stop. So
Yeah.
what's your secret of how you manage to get these gigs, Fred? Because I know you do all that.
Well, I don't do all of it, but I mean,
Well,
we
you
do.
do a lot
I
of it.
do quite a lot of it. I think it is. It is. You just got to be good, John. People, people. The minute we've done a gig, we are getting asked to be rebooked because people have had a good audience in. They've made some money.
Yeah.
They've had a good night. The feedback's good. It's all up. And there's no secret to it. If people want to see you, you'll get the gigs. And I'm not saying we're better than anyone else or anything. You're not bigging ourselves up, but that's it. It's no secret. It is give people what they want. We like I say, we go all over the place. We're reliable. We can hold. We put on a good performance no matter whether there's 50 people in the room or 300 or 1,000. I think we've. I don't know.
I would say one of the things
that
you do is you realize that you realize you're there to entertain. You realize you're there to put on a show. You're not there to. I would say that with you guys, it's a case of you would feel the failure if you didn't get that feedback from the audience.
Yeah.
Whereas some bands forget that and they go out and just play and they think it's for them. But in reality, I mean, I had this conversation with a young band of ours recently. And I says, when you were great guys, I says, but you were performing for yourself. I says, if you watch, and it was Blitz that was headline, I says, watch how they do it. And I says, and then they're involved in the crowd. And sure as anything, the next night, that young band came out and they did exactly what Blitz did. And the difference was palpable. It made them more confident. And it was a lack of confidence in their part. It was like, well, what happens if the fans don't respond? I says, you don't accept that, guys. And that's something that you guys definitely do.
Yeah, and the packaging in the live environment is critical. I mean, like Fred said, you've got to have some decent songs, and you've got to have a starter for 10 of an audience fan base. But if you look at some of the places we've gone, and we might have played to 50 the first time round, and then the next time there's 100. It's kind of there aren't too many places where it's kind of either gone backwards or it's not gone forwards. But yeah, I mean, that whole presentation thing is key too, especially in our genre. They're not expecting you to turn up in a tracksuit bottoms and a hoodie and go out and play the songs kind of thing. They're expecting something a bit more kind of flamboyant, and fortunately we've got overload in that department.
Certainly have. I mean, I can remember, conversating with loads of bands. It's like, not about you specifically, obviously, but they'll say, but how come that band's getting all these bookings, or they're on this, or they're on that festival, and we're better musically, or we're this, or we're that? I says, then you have to look at. I says, you have to put yourself. What I always say now is, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's watching you, the fan. What are they going to want? The minute you start on transmit and no receive, then you're on a slippery slope. And I think that's something you guys are really good at. You're good at engaging with your fan base.
Yeah, and I think you've got, we're kind of grateful. We never thought we'd be doing this again. We did it when we were younger. We're doing more now than we'd ever done, and we're enjoying it. And we enjoy every minute of it, and that comes across, I think. And you have to do it for the moment. There isn't really a making it. There's 1% are going to make enough to make a living, 2%. The rest of us, you just have to enjoy it whilst you're doing it. And I think that's infectious, and I think that's you can't be looking at other bands. Everyone thinks other bands are getting more festivals than you. You should be higher up the bill. That's human nature. It's all you can do is what you can do.
I mean, I must admit, it's one of these things that I have conversations with certain bands of ours, and they'll go, well, where are we? And they all want to know where they are. Where are we playing in that? If it's an old dear, where are we placed? And I'll go, why? And it's just a dick measuring competition for them. And I was like, do you know what I'm going to do differently this year and next year? it won't matter whether you're the bigger, there will be a headliner, because there always has to be a headliner.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it'll be about balancing the show. So if you've got three really heavy bands, don't put them one after the other. You know, put one there. One, if you get three melodic bands in among that, then don't put them all together. Give the fans something different. And because there's nothing, I love heavy music, but 3 hours of it.
Yeah.
One after the other, you do anybody's head in. You know what I mean? Or even melodic stuff, it gets repetitive. So, and I always say to them, I says, if that's all that matters to you is where you are in that bill, I says, then you're looking at this the wrong way, I think.
Yeah,
would you agree?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a whole thing as well. You know, there's no shortcut.
Yeah.
You know, we get an audience. We can go and play at Winter's End because we went and played Dreadnought to 40 people. You know, we'd never been up there before. We went to Trillions. We'd never been up there before. You know, if people see you because you're there, we're making the effort. That won't happen otherwise. There's no audience for you. If people haven't seen you or haven't seen you down the road, or they haven't, why are they going to go and see you? You know, there's thousands of really good bands. They see you because they've got a connection with you. People have spoken about you. You know, you've got to get out there and do the hard yard, as they say.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. That takes me on to the next thing, which is bands saying to me, "Can you get us onto such and such a festival?" My answer is why would they want you? You know, think about it from their perspective. Why would they be considering you if they look on your Facebook page and you've got 1,500 followers and you get, you know, and on Spotify you've got 34 people that like, you know, at the end of the day, guys, I mean, let me ask this question. For every hour that you do for music, how many hours do you do for the business side of it as a band?
It's probably more, I would say, on the business side. I mean, the amount of time and effort it takes to keep the profile of the band in the public eye, you know, dealing with the media people, the agents, the bookers, the venues, people in other bands, and then there's the logistics of being in the band as well. You know, don't underestimate the amount of time all that takes to keep on top of, and you know, merch and kind of just simple things that you think would be easy. You know, a day's gone straight away before you've even thought about it. So, and we're quite lucky is that, you know, me and Freddie tend to be fairly complementary in terms of our sort of time availability. So I can do stuff during the daytime, and you know, and you know, Freddie's obviously working. You know, I'm lucky enough not to have to. So, so it does kind of work really well that we can kind of tag team these people to get the best for us, you know, and the best for them too. So, and that has worked really well. And then the rest of the guys, you know, dip in with their contributions to the sort of the band arrangements too. You know, it's so everybody's kind of doing a little bit of something at least.
And that I think that's key, because a lot of bands you'll find there's usually one person doing everything business wise.
Yeah.
And I always say to them, look, all that's going to happen there is that one person is going to get sick, fed up.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is just turning up and doing gigs or doing practices and that, and it's not right, because the business side is so keen. It's what makes a difference, and it's that engagement. You know, you have to give people a reason, and this is something I want to come on to now because I think it dovetails nicely. Since you came back post-COVID, what have your experiences of crowd numbers and that been in comparison to what they would have been pre-COVID?
I've got to be honest, ours have been really good.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
I think we've done one gig, which was a new venue where it was just okay. There was one that a promoter pulled it early, and that's something to do with the location and the venue. So that was odd because the rest of them we've done have been really good. You know, we went to the Musician in Leicester, you know, and they weren't selling a lot of tickets beforehand because people aren't, and the night was rammed, absolutely. You know, the Thekla, which is a big boat that we put on with Netherfield, opened for us on that one. We put that on ourselves. Really good crowd in there. Really good.
But are the numbers as good as they would have been pre-COVID?
I'd say it is hard to tell because we've kind of we're kind of more popular than we were. We had a really busy downtime with the album, the second album. You know, we've got some great radio play. We had Planet Rock and coverage in. So our kind of
you made the most out of lockdown, really.
Yeah, we're kind of a lot better known than we were before lockdown. So I mean, the audiences are as good.
Yeah,
they probably would have been better. There's still some nervousness, understandably, and we totally get that. You know, and we're not. Well, I wouldn't force anyone to go out to a gig if you're not ready for it. You know, don't do that.
No.
You know, but they've not been as, you know, there's been a lot of gloom. I was reading some posts today on social media, and you just think that's like a really silly thing to say because it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, people are taking one little experience, and that fuels the negativity. I think we have to work this together, and keep a bit of positivity. Recognise, there might be a little bit of nervousness there, but you know, we're seeing the same people
rocking up.
We saw before coming out.
If you take our Bristol gig, especially, you know, we played the Louisiana in Bristol back in October 19, and you know, so I mean it was a sellout in the end with a smallish venue, which is why we moved up to the Thekla, much bigger, you know, and I'd say we probably pulled about the same number of people, but the experience actually in the bigger venue was bloody marvelous, you know, because it's got a better stage, it's got better infrastructure, you know, there's a balcony of people, and they were able to set up for people who wanted or needed to sit down, who wanted to stay a bit separate from the craziness going on down the front, kind of thing. So, so you know, I would say on balance about the same, you know. But other venues, you know, we've been in Swindon. We got to move up to a bigger venue that we probably wouldn't have been able to play otherwise, you know. So level 3 over there with Darren and the guys done a damn good job. And then, like Fred said, Leicester was, you know, they were a bit nervous because of the ticket sales in the week leading up to the gig. But in actual fact, the walk-up was tremendous. And, you know, I think there must have been perhaps a couple of days of decent sales too, you know. So, so we had a damn fine time at the Musician. So, but I know it is tough in other places. And I know it's tough for individuals as well, you know, not wanting to get involved perhaps just yet.
Well, I think that the thing from my own experience, the problem is that there's too much going on. I mean, you guys you made the most out of the lockdown, but you were also your fan base was cryogenically frozen, then reheated. Whereas a lot of bands didn't have that pre-COVID, and those are the bands that are struggling because there's so many gigs on. And there's a lot of people that used to go to gigs aren't going now. So from my perspective as a promoter, so if you're in a band where you know you're going to pull a crowd and promoters are willing to pay you a fee, then there's less risk for you. Whereas if it's bands that are ticket sales, or in a case like my case where I will agree a fee, pay it, but then the sales don't come through. You know, I've probably lost $2.5 grand.
Yeah. I think it is.
So the reason why I point it out, I'm asking because it dovetails because you guys have worked hard, and that's why it made me think of it. You've worked hard to earn the right to be able to do that, and I guarantee you that if I put you on something, it will sell well because it's you. And I think there's very few bands that can do that. Those damn Crows can do it. Massive Wagons can do it. But beyond that, there's not that many. So if I'm looking at if a promoter's head on and go, right, I want a headlining band for this one day, for an all day up in Edinburgh, there's not that many that I could, and the bands are coming along and going, we want X amount of money. And I'm going, you can't sell that amount of tickets, mate. I'd need to make the tickets 30 quid just to get your, you know, and I think there's an unreality there. But I think also it's like, I get what you're saying about people putting up posts that are overtly negative. However, I think it's also there as an antidote because there are groups, I don't mean bands, I mean Facebook groups, that to them, everything's rosy. And it fucking isn't.
No.
You know, it isn't rosy. It's rosy if you're in a position where you can do what you want to do. and you've got a fan base, but it isn't for the vast majority of bands. And I'm scared. I'll be honest with you, I'm actually scared.
Yeah, and I don't think it was rosy before COVID.
It wasn't. It was terrible. Everybody. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
you know, it was. I think it's easy to sort of think, oh, it's because of COVID, but it, you know, we've slogged a long time to get gigs, and you know, and no matter how kind of popular we might be perceived to be now, you know, it hasn't been easy. It's been, it's, you know, when we've done the you know, losing money and playing for almost, you know, to sort of half empty or nearly empty venues, and yeah, and that can still happen at a drop of a hat. You know, there's say the competition. You know, if there's someone down the road, you know, if those damn crows are playing down the road, then all the other bands are within 50 miles of stuff, don't they?
Yeah,
that's life, I guess. You know, if you know, if Foo Fighters are playing their stuff, don't they? Whatever, you know, there's always going to be a bit of that. But it is hard for younger bands, but it always was.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you're right, because it's like I said to people as well. Well, it was bad before COVID, but also the thing I think is that a lot of the age group of people who go to rock and metal gigs are our age, and we are the ones for two reasons. We're quite vulnerable, and you know, to what was going on. But the other thing is, we're also the first ones to fall out of habit of doing something or fall into another habit. And then it's just like, if you saw that with the smoking ban when that first came out, that first winter, the pubs were still full and people were just going outside and smoking. And then it got so, well, I'm sick of getting wet and cold and freezing every time I have a fag, so I just won't go tonight. And then they realised after a few months how much money they've saved by buying the boots. And it's kind of like, I think there's a danger of that as well. I was hoping that it would be the opposite, and that it would be almost like after the Great Depression when they had the glory years in America. I was kind of hoping for that.
A bounce back, I know what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, if you look, I mean, like the Crows just played Cardiff Castle, didn't they? Big old setup there. So, you know, the audiences, you know, for bands at that level are still there, and I think that sold out very quickly as well. So yeah, I think it's kind of like the next level down from your Wagons and Crows and Stone Brokens, and you know, the next level below that is probably where it's a bit harder. But you know, even Mason Hill are going around at the moment, and they have done a few decent gigs and put a decent.
And Hacksan's just done one. Hacksan's just done one, and they've done well. You know.
Yeah, cool.
Because Mad Haven, one of our bands, were the main support, and you know, I was just talking to Sam Balderson earlier, and you know, they were happy with the numbers. I mean, certainly a year ago when we set it up, I was doing predictions and working on spreadsheets, looking at it from Mad Haven's perspective, what it was worth doing, and they've done well. You know, it's done good, but I think that's the thing. It's whereas it used to be, I would always just go, right, I'm putting these three bands on because I think they're really good bands. Now it has to be more to it than that.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, the other benefit for us is that, you know, we're not in it for the money. You know, we're trying to self-fund. You know, so we're trying to be in a position where our stuff kind of breaks even, but that includes recording an album, which took 2 weeks in a killer studio to put together, and you know, so we're looking at it very much as a kind of self-funding kind of hobby thing, if you like. But you know, so we're not trying to put, you know, £100 in everybody's pocket every night. I mean, it's a long time since we've done that on the back of a gig. You know, dish the money out. All we're doing at the moment is paying back what we've already spent. You know what I mean? So
you're speculating to accumulate. It's just that you're more comfortable. Well, there's more chance of you getting it back just because of the work you've done. It's a bit like Massive Wagons. When I first came into it, and Massive Wagons were just really, it was just about the time when their album came out and it went into the charts. And it was like people were going, they're an overnight success. And I'm like, and I look back and they'd played thousands of gigs, literally, in 2011. And I was like, it was it Lee Trevino or somebody like that. Arnold Passes. It's funny, the funnier and the more they practice, the more lucky I seem to get. One of them. Yeah, and it's kind of like that. And I mean, that's something. I mean, you guys will speculate. You know, you don't try and do things in the cheap. I mean, you guys are a bit off your head sometimes as well. Because like, I remember when you brought out the Marvin Bears, and I was like, who the f in hell is going to want a stuffed bear? That's a rock fan. Well, next thing I know is like the first lot sold out. And I actually met two of them the other week at Sheffield at Corporation. I met number 3, number 4. Sorry, I can't remember their names, but they were number 3.
Brilliant.
And I was just like, that is so clever. It was really smart. And it's thinking outside the box, isn't it?
Yeah. It's kind of, little ideas like that. Again, it paid for itself. It made us a few quid to put towards the recording of the album. The second run of Marvin's especially really helped us. But yeah, those kind of things, they're impossible to have, 150 of them sat in the garage or something. It kind of had to be done on a sort of fairly small scale, and that in itself made it kind of interesting and popular as well. And we can't believe it either. We see 2 or 3 of them turning up at a gig. It's
it was the Outlaw Orchestra gig, and 3 and 4 came in, and they'd met in the pub beforehand, and then it was almost like it was like the fucking teddy bear's picnic. But and you will love this, and this is again a very good point I like to make, that it was a guy our age that came in and he had it stuck inside his jacket. Sorry, I can't remember his name, but he was one of the rock in the bowl kind of stalwarts.
Yeah.
And he had it inside his pocket, inside his. I said, "Is that a?" Went, yeah, and he brings it out, and he starts telling me, and he's like a kid at Christmas, and when it came, it was in a nicely wrapped box, and you had a little certificate, and it was number 4, and it was a number 3, and I'm like, these guys have got it sussed. They really do have it sussed. I thought it was brilliant.
It's kind of special, isn't it? Because we just did 2 little runs of them.
Yeah.
So and then that was it. If you got one, you got one. So everyone that's got one, but now is in a little club.
Yeah.
But now
they put bloody pictures of them up. It's going on holiday and drinking bourbon and stuff. It's mad. I mean, there's one on the front of the stage most of the time. So, there's one, not ours. Someone from
Thomas, isn't it? Thomas from Bristol. Yeah, he's and his Marvin's like gained a hat and a pair of trousers and all kinds of stuff. It's not quite the same as it was when it left the office here in Bristol. So
well, when this chap introduced me to, when I said about it, is that a Marvin, and he pulled it out dead excited. He says, and we met, not he, we met number 4 in the pub earlier, this pub that had been in earlier. And a bit later, she must have come in, and he brought her across to introduce me to her, the woman that had 4. And I thought, this is, and lady kids, if you're watching this is the kind of blue sky thinking. And, at the end of the day, if it gets you noticed and it makes you money, and it's quirky, and it it's almost like TikTok if you think about it. These like in TikTok, if they get somebody does something funny and there's a song in the background, and other people start doing their variation of it, all to the same song.
They don't make us any money, John, because we have to end up buying them for our mums, bloody daughters. It cost me a fortune, that bloody mom.
Never talk. There again, there's another lesson: don't show it to your mums or your parents or anybody else. Keep it secret. Now, the next thing in this woke generation, guys, is you're obviously going to have to bring out a female one as well. Now, you can't just have male ones. You're going to have to bring out a Martha Bear.
And at the time when the Marvins were put together, there was 2 different bears available, and the idea was one was going to have a black shirt, one was going to have a pink shirt, and the bears were slightly different. But the buggers went and discontinued the other. In the time we were working on the project, it ended up there was only one left, and the one they do make a different one, but it's kind of like it's pink and it just doesn't look right. So but so there is a prototype pink T-shirt version that our supplier put together for us, and but there's
guys.
I think there is only one of those, and it's sat on the shelf in my living room.
It's all good. It's all good stuff. So I think one of the things that we get, we aim this pretty much at new, young bands, and we try to make sure that guys like you share your experiences in the hope that they'll learn something and possibly even avoid the mistakes that we all made. Including myself, because I used to be in bands back in the 80s, so all the mistakes I made as well. So, if you were to give each of you in turn, if you were to give advice to anybody that's watching this about what they should do and what they shouldn't do, what would it be, Fred? And you go first, Fred.
Well, the number one thing is just do it for the enjoyment of doing it. Anything else is a bonus. So if you start with a view of I'm going to enjoy the experience, then you're in a much better place, because you're not setting yourself up constantly to fail, or you're not in control of what happens really. You're in control of what you do and the influence you have and how you behave. Don't drink the headline band's rider in the dressing room. Don't be an arse, because you'll never get back. And that gets like wildfire. And the same, be nice to everyone, but just enjoy the moment. Just, it may be fleeting, say, and we've got painful experience of having enjoyed the moment when we were, in the 80s and 90s, and then that all going away and having a flog round doing the covers thing for years. It may be that's as good as it gets. So enjoy it, because it's a privilege, and you can dine out on it. And if you're enjoying it, it's more likely that you'll get more of it. I think if you start beating yourself up and looking across at other people and stuff, it can be all consuming, and we're all full of self-doubt. Musicians, we're bearing our souls all the time. So, it's mentally quite hard as well. So I think, my main bit of advice that I kind of would give to anyone at the moment is just enjoy the moment. And I give that advice to our band members sometimes as well, because we get a bit, why aren't we doing this? What's happening? Nothing's happened today. And you have to actually take stock and say, this is brilliant, just to be able to play a gig and people come and want to see you and enjoy your music and clap and dance around. Maybe as good as it gets, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And I think that's me. That's my nugget for today.
Well, and then Moose, it's up to you now, mate. It hasn't left you much to go at.
I haven't really got much to add, to be honest. I mean, I would 100% agree with what Freddie said. Is that you just got to be authentic to yourself. It's kind of, it's no use deciding wagons are popular today, let's go and be another Massive Wagons, or Stone Broken sound like this, let's go and sound like them. So you've got to be kind of credible to your own sound, if you know what I mean, your own songs. And we're really lucky on that stuff that Rob in particular is fantastically original with his themes, his song themes, his storytelling, and from that comes something which is quite sort of unique in a way. But yeah, when and we're the same. I mean, again, we're also lucky that Freddie's a great guitar riff writer, so he'll sit there and come up with 60 ideas which turn into 30 kind of constructed things, and that turns into 15 songs and 12 go on the album, so we are lucky in that way that we've got prolific guitar inspiration coming at us, and also then Rob's storytelling is great too. And those are the kind of things that, if anybody's got a bit of extra time to focus on anything, is kind of making that kind of authenticness about the songs is what I would say spend some time on.
Yeah, that's all great advice, because it's real. And I mean, I'm kind of halfway through a book that I'm reading just now, written by a guy called James Kennedy, and it's kind of about his upset. It's like his rock and roll failure, so to speak. I mean, he's still gigging, and he's still a good guy, but yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. Absolutely brilliant. And he describes what it feels like to be on a stage as a band in there, and it's the best description. And it took me right back to when I was doing it in the 80s. That feeling, it didn't matter if there were 3 men and a dog was the only one that liked you. You didn't give a shit, because at the end of the day, you were out there, and his description in there of that element is just, it literally, it took me right back. I could smell the gig.
Freddie got the book. I don't know where it came from, Freddie, but I mean, it took me like a day and a half to read it. It was brilliant. I couldn't put it down. And but I would say, he's like a one man and his dog kind of thing, isn't it? He writes all the songs, he does all the arrangements, so everything is on his shoulders. And I would say, I would find that extremely difficult to be.
Yeah.
I couldn't see myself doing that, for example, or being part of that either. I wouldn't want to be the guy who gets shown the songs and told what to play. You know, it's kind of, and that's another beautiful thing about Sons of Liberty. You know, yeah, okay, round the edges we might have a few little squabbles about, you know, arrangements, about how the parts fit together or what might happen, but generally speaking, we're contributing as we go along, and kind of our ideas are incorporated, and it's a band. You know, it's not like this isn't Andy Muse and the Sons of Liberty. You know, this is Sons of Liberty. It's the five of us, and I think that's massively important to me. You know, that everybody else kind of feels like that too. You know.
Yeah, I think the bands that I work with are the most, you can't say successful because success is in the eye of the beholder, but the bands that there's less hassle within themselves are the bands where they're a gang,
yeah,
rather than
brotherhood. That's kind of
a brotherhood, yeah. And you know, you come across these bands and they're worth a weight in going, and it's patently obvious with the way you guys are. You know, like the whole band is, that you can tell, you know, like when you were in recording your album and the stuff you were putting in social media, you couldn't fail to look at that and go, these guys are fucking loving it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely loving it, you know.
And that's because we were.
Yeah. So, you know what? And that's a salutary lesson to be learned here. It doesn't matter your age. It matters your desire, and it matters your focus, and it matters what you want to achieve. And you know, success is, I think, well, you tell me, in your eyes, when you get to the end of this mortal coil, Fred, and you look back, what would success look like to you musically?
I think it is just those moments, those memories that we've kind of, say, cherished together. Sounds a bit, you know, but it is. You know, those 2 weeks in the studio, I forgot that now. That's in the tank. I'll never forget that. I mean, we did have a fantastic time, and it was creatively massively rewarding and pleasurable to be working with Josiah J. Manning and someone that professional. You know, that was a privilege. So every moment of that was fantastic. So that's success. Playing Giants of Rock on the big stage. Probably the sort of biggest crowd we played to, and having a really good reaction, and you know, that is success. So it'll be, for me, it'll be just, you know, Aces and Eights having got on Planet Rock Radio and got on you know, a couple of singles and one on the main playlist. We've got that forever. That's success. If nothing else happens, those moments made it worth it. Nothing else may happen. Yeah, it will, because we'll keep going, but it's creating more memories like that with the band, you know, with our group, our band of brothers, and that's, you know, that's success to me. You know, and none of that would have happened if, you know, a few little turns, a few little things, if we hadn't got together. So you know, you count your blessings with that.
Yeah. What about you, Moose? You're doing a lot of yapping there, so he's left you nothing again, mate.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. I mean, it's kind of you know, the kind of the gig experience, like Planet Rockstock and, you know, Hard Rock Hell Crows in Sheffield, and you know, and Giants of Rock especially, and, you know, that kind of year between the first appearance of Giants of Rock and the second was just amazing, really, you know. So you know, especially to go through on the sort of fan vote from the first appearance, that, you know, that was incredible in itself. But to go back and play the big room with, you know, 1,200 people or whatever it was, you know, was pretty damn incredible. And all of those things add together to make a kind of growing kind of feel as to what we've achieved, you know. And like Fred said much earlier in the chat, is, you know, none of us expected to be doing any of this at this stage, you know, at our age, or this stage of our kind of musical career, if you like, you know.
I think it's immense. And when I'm talking to our young bands, the Forge Ahead initiative, I usually use you guys as a kind of,
oh God,
don't do that.
Look at these guys, and they're doing it, they're living it, and they're doing it properly. That's what you guys need to do, you know, and that's why we got you to talk to them before on a Zoom conference thing, because that's what it's about. It's about realizing that the only thing that limits you is your own expectations, your own fear.
Yeah.
And you know what? And if you think, and one of the expectations, one of the things that can limit you most is by trying to measure success in monetary terms, or whatever, because you're never going to be rich doing rock.
Yeah.
Not now.
No, it's the model's changed, isn't it? And I think the other thing that I did say when we met the Forge Initiative bands, and and we've had conversations, John, about it, and I think Toby Jepson, to do some name dropping, kind of drilled this into us. You just have a plan. We've got a plan, and it's realistic and achievable, and we've achieved everything on our plan, and it's not to make millions of pounds.
Yeah,
there's nothing like that on there.
Yeah.
No.
To get laid, by a load of groupies, none of that's on there, because it don't happen. It is, it is incrementally. What is it realistic? What do we want to do? And we sit and we say, is this what we all want to do? And we'll all agree that plan. And I might, suggest something, and Moose and someone else, and every time we've done that, we've achieved it, and they've not been outlandish.
No, I think you and I had a conversation right at the start when we started chatting, Fred, and I must admit you opened my eyes to a different way of thinking, which was along the lines of, I've got this venue, and you're like, no, we don't want to play that venue again because we've already played it and filled it twice. So if we're going to play one, we're going to play one in that town that's a bigger venue and try and get more people in. And I thought, fucking right, that's the right way to look at it.
Yeah.
And that could even be from the perspective, not ego, but purely and simply from a perspective of maybe the bigger venue will give the customers a better customer experience.
Yeah.
Bigger stage, better lights, better PA, or whatever. And I think it does need to be that dotting the I's and cross the T's.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of bands just don't do that. They stumble about, and any gig's a gig, and any gig's worthwhile. And this, and we've all been there and we've all done it. But sometimes you have to stand back and go, is this the right thing to do? If it's not, don't do it for vanity reasons.
Yeah, and I mean, Freddie's really good at saying, does this make the Sons of Liberty boat go faster? If we're going to take this on, what is it going to contribute to our plan? Is it moving us forward in the documented plan? And sometimes it isn't, and we have to say, okay, well, sorry, we ain't going to do that, or it might be something that one of the other guys in the band really wants to do, but so we've passed up on a few of those, and the thing is, venues especially, they realize what the score is as well, so having sold out the Louisiana a couple of years ago now, they understood completely that we were going to look for the next step up, and they need the next band to go back there and start building an audience.
And that is the right way to look at it. You don't owe them anything. They don't owe you anything. And if you can keep doing it, and you know what? Similarly, if it gets to the point where things change and you can't fill the big ones anymore, there's all the biggest bands in the world have all done that.
Yeah, exactly.
And all that, and there's no shame in it, because they'll tell you the only thing that you should measure with: the fun that you've had, the memories you've made, and the longevity of what you've done.
Yeah, definitely. And there's, you see bands, just trying to think of one now off the top of my head. I mean, something like The Answer or something like that. I remember seeing them come up through in Bristol, playing Louisiana, playing the Fleece and Firkin, and then moving on to the O2. So what's that, 1,600 capacity kind of venue, and then a few years later they're kind of coming back round and they're back at the Fleece again at 350 capacity. So you can't burn any bridges either. So you just got to make sure that if you are making those movements, because you've been successful, that you do it in a professional way, and everybody's left with a good taste in their mouth. And then in a couple of years' time, when it comes back round again, there's no drama going back to the same place. So,
yeah, and that's it is the right way. And if you don't burn your bridge and you handle it, it's back to what you said before. Be right with the people around you. As we said in my area of Scotland, you catch more flies with sugar than shit.
Yeah.
and that's how it is.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So before we go, can you give us your socials, or where the best place. And if anybody, I can't imagine there's anybody watching this that doesn't know who Sons of Liberty are, but there may be one. And for that one,
Yeah.
give us a socials.
Yeah, for you there that don't know.
Yeah, way at the back. You at the back.
You're not paying any attention.
Yeah, the website gets you to everything else, so it's a place to start, and from there you can find Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, everything, and that's www.sonsoflibertyband.com.
Yeah,
there you go, no problem at all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to thank the guys for sparing the time. I really enjoyed the chat, and I'm sure everybody else that watches this in the future will love it as well. So thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, dude. That's really appreciated.
And until next time, you know what to do. Hit that cowbell, subscribe.